Whispers in the Schwarzwald. Not animals, but not quite human either. These are descendants of a forgotten population, possibly post-World War II survivors who retreated underground. They're hyper-adapted to the forest, move silently, and can mimic human speech. They're not mindless, they're organized. Locals call them Waldmenschen, forest people. There are rumors of entire towns that vanished, trails that lead nowhere, and songs that lure people into the dark. This tale features a group of 5 young cryptid explorers filming another creepy forest for their fans. Location: somewhere in the Black Forest, Germany. Time: 2:33 a.m. A heavy breath fogs the lens, obscuring the view of a dark forest trail. The camera swings wildly, catching flashes of gnarled branches, roots like claws, and something moving too fast between the trees. "Keep running, don't stop, don't you bloody dare," orders a female voice from behind the camera. Someone screams, not in pain, but pure panic. The sound cuts off like a switch was thrown. The camera tumbles to the forest floor. For 3 seconds, it shows nothing but moss, dead leaves, and a single bloody footprint. Then a shadow looms over the lens right before it cuts to black. 2 days earlier, Gutach, Germany. Edge of the Black Forest. Jessie stood at the edge of the trail, watching the way the trees swallowed the sunlight. The forest looked too still. No bird song, no wind, just a heavy silence that clung like wet wool. "Forest doesn't feel right," she muttered. Behind her, Donnie adjusted her beanie and gave the camera a practiced smirk. "All right, creeps and cryptid freaks, this is the real deal. We're at the edge of the Schwarzwald, home to legends of the Waldmenschen, feral people, vanishings, death, and we're going in." Luca tightened the straps on his pack as he spoke over his shoulder. This area was used by the Wehrmacht during the war. Some say soldiers disappeared here, whole units of them. Locals avoid it like the plague. "Locals avoid everything," Marcus scoffed, flicking the camera on. "Let's not mythologize a hiking trail." And so, they hiked into the forest. The air changed somewhere around the second hour. Not suddenly, like someone flipping a switch, but gradually, the way a fever settles into the bones. The sun still filtered through the canopy above, but it felt diluted, pale, sickly. Even the birds had gone quiet. The group moved in single file down what barely qualified as a trail, more of a break in the underbrush, winding deeper and deeper into the heart of the Black Forest. Branches tugged at their sleeves, twigs snapped behind them, but only ever when no one was looking. "You know," Danny said, breaking the silence, "this reminds me of that hike we did in North Carolina, remember? Pisgah Woods? When Trent swore he saw a shadow guy?" Trent groaned. "Oh my God, again with the shadow guy?" No, she grinned. "You legit panicked, dropped the mic, and screamed like someone kicked you in the balls. I tripped over a root and thought it was a bear. You yelled, 'It's in the trees.'" Donnie mimicked in a mock heroic voice. Laughter rippled through the group, a little too loud, too forced. The kind of laughter people use when they need to chase something away. Jessie didn't laugh. She kept scanning the tree line. "You did say something was watching us that night," Zoe offered quietly from the back. Trent glanced over his shoulder. "Yeah, and we found out it was a freaking owl stuck in a tree hole." Donnie chuckled, but her voice dropped as she looked around. "Still, same vibes, right? Like something's just behind us, but every time you turn around, it's gone." Nobody answered to that. For a long while, the only sound was boots on mulch and the distant snap of something moving far off, too far to place, and yet too close to ignore. The trees seemed too tall, Too tight, too dark. The underbrush was bone dry, but the air was damp. Visibility narrowed to 20 feet before the green swallowed everything except this path. By noon, the GPS had stopped working. By 2 p.m., they found their first totem, a deer skull nailed to a tree, smeared with human hair and old blood. "Okay, what the hell is this?" Zoe asked, her voice a whisper. Luca crouched, face paled, looking concerned. "That's old craftsmanship. This isn't a prank." They all backed away from the totem and quietly continued down the ever-encroaching narrow path. The trail started to change an hour after the totem, where once there had been clear dirt and trodden roots. Now, the trail narrowed even more, swallowed by creeping underbrush and low-hanging branches. Nettles and thorns clawed through Pansit's skin. Ferns grew tall and thick, crowding their knees. Ancient trees loomed above, pressing in from either side, like silent sentinels guarding a hidden passage. Jesse stopped, scanning ahead with narrowed eyes. "What do you think?" Marcus asked, wiping sweat off his forehead. "Still a trail? Or are we hiking through Jumanji now?" "It's marked on the map," Jessie replied, though the doubt in her voice betrayed her. "Supposed to run parallel to the stream. If we curve west, we'll hit it again." Luca knelt to examine the ground. No recent foot traffic. Maybe animals, but no boots. "It's wild." "No shh." Donnie trailed off, her gaze fixed ahead. A massive tree had fallen across the path, its mossy trunk blocking the way like a natural barricade. The roots were upturned, forming a wall of dark, wet soil and crawling insects. The smell of rot hit them like a physical force, overpowering them all and forcing a gag. "Detour time," Danny said, forcing cheer into her voice. "You know, I always wanted to be lost in a haunted German forest." "You're not helping," Zoe muttered, eyes flicking toward the trees. They veered left, pushing through thick underbrush, skirting brambles and ducking under hanging limbs. The canopy above was so dense now that even at midday the light felt dim, washed out and green. Every footstep was muffled by a carpet of old leaves and soft moss. Jessie kept checking the compass. It spun once lazily, before settling. "Still west," she said, though she didn't sound sure. About 20 minutes in, they broke through a thicket and into a small clearing choked with tall grass and ringed with gray stones. They stopped to rest and check their heading. This was as good a place as they could find out there. Zoe sat cross-legged, chewing a granola bar in silence, her gaze never leaving the tree line. Danny was talking into the camera again, energy still high, though now edged with something nervous. "Update for the cryptid creeps. We've officially gone off-road. The path is blocked, and we're rerouting. Some might say, we're lost, but I say, adventure." Luca looked up from his pack. "That word means we're lost." "We're not lost," Jessie said. "We're course-correcting, yeah." Marcus chuckled darkly. "You sound like the pilot in a plane crash documentary." Everyone laughed, a little too loud. Then, all were silent. Zoe looked around suddenly. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" Danny asked. Zoe stood up, brushing crumbs off her lap. "I thought, there's something in the trees." They all listened. Nothing but the faint rustle of leaves. "Could be a lynx," Luca added, pulling out a small guidebook. "They're rare, but they're here. Or a boar could have been watching us." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "You're not great at the whole comforting wildlife facts thing, dude." Danny zipped her jacket and gave Zoe a half smile. "Hey, remember that time in Pennsylvania when you swore you saw a skinwalker?" Zoe didn't laugh. "I did. Yeah, well, you were also on 3 hours of sleep and Red Bull." "I still saw something." Jessie stood abruptly, slinging her pack over her shoulder. "Break's over, let's move. We need to find the stream and get back on the map before it gets dark." They marched single file, Jessie at the front, Marcus in the rear. The forest had gone strangely quiet. No birds, no insects, just the sound of boots on mulch and the occasional snap of a branch. Danny whispered to Marcus, "Weird, right? It's too quiet." "You saying the forest has the ick?" "I'm saying this feels like one of those moments in a horror movie where someone goes, 'Wait, where's Zoe?'" Marcus chuckled, then turned to look behind them. Zoe was there, just barely. She stopped walking, head tilted slightly, looking straight up into the trees. Jessie called back, "You good, Zoe?" Zoe didn't respond at first. Then, "I thought I saw someone." Everyone froze. Then Marcus raised the camera. "What do you mean someone up there?" she said, pointing toward the ridge. "By that tree. I swear, it was like a silhouette of a man watching us." Jessie moved fast, pushing through the brush toward the spot Zoe indicated. There was nothing, just a line of old trees and crumbling rock. "Nothing here," Jessie said, but her voice was tight. She didn't believe that either. The sun bled through the trees in long copper streaks, fading fast. Shadows stretched tall and twisted across the forest floor. Every sound, every snapping twig or shifting leaf, felt amplified now. Jessie led the group with a hard pace, but Zoe kept falling behind. She was the quietest of them now. About 100 yards further, Zoe stopped again. Danny turned to say something, but froze when she saw Zoe's face. Pale, eyes wide. Jessie doubled back. "What? What is it?" Zoe pointed. "He's still following us." They all looked. At first, there was nothing, just the tree line. Then a movement, brief, between the trunks. A silhouette, gone as fast as it appeared. Luca murmured something in German under his breath. "Could be a hiker," Marcus said, though his voice was thin. "No hiker moves like that," Danny said quietly. They stood there for a long moment, listening, watching, but the figure was gone again, swallowed by the trees. By the time they found a clearing wide enough to pitch camp, night had fully taken the forest. Cold crept in fast. They built a fire with Luca's help, the flames crackling against the darkness. The smoke smelled sharp, like pine wood and something else, something older, decayed. Zoe hadn't said a word since sunset. Jessie sat with her back to a tree, knife on her belt, eyes scanning the dark beyond the firelight. Everyone else was just quiet, anticipating the worst. Marcus finally broke the silence. "Well, if this is where we die, I'd just like to say I'm sorry for every sarcastic thing I said." Danny smiled. "So, like, all of it?" He raised his hands. "Exactly." Luca was staring into the fire, still flipping through his small folklore book. "There are stories," he said slowly, "about the Black Forest, about things that live here, things that wear the woods like a coat." Jessie shot him a look. "Now's not the time, Luca." He shut the book. A branch snapped in the distance. Everyone went still. Then another snap. Closer. Something was moving out there, circling just beyond the glow of the fire. Not fast, deliberate. Jessie rose silently and motioned for the others to switch off their lights. The fire hissed and popped loudly. Silhouettes danced in the trees, slender, unnatural. Then, a shape. Not an animal. A man just standing at the edge of the firelight, half shrouded in darkness. His coat was black, his shoulders broad. A wide-brimmed hat cast his face into shadow. He didn't move, didn't speak. Jessie stepped forward slightly, hand near her knife. "Hello?" she called out. The figure stepped into the light. He looked. Wrong. Weather-beaten, dirty. His eyes were dark, unforgiving, stern, and there were scratches on his cheek, healing unevenly. His clothes were functional, layers, leather, canvas. He carried a backpack and, unmistakably, a rifle slung across his back. Jesse tensed. "You lost?" The man didn't respond right away. His eyes moved over the group, slowly, calculating. "No," he said finally, voice low and gravelly. "You lot are the ones lost." Zoe took an instinctive step back. Danny's smile faded completely. There was an awkward pause. Jesse stepped forward. "What's your name?" "You can call me Keller," he answered, turning his suspicious eyes on her. Danny nodded toward the rifle. "Little heavy for a camping trip, huh?" Keller's lips moved slightly. Maybe a smile, or maybe not. "Bears," he said simply. Jesse didn't believe that for a second. "There aren't any bears in this region, I don't think." Keller looked at her. "Not the kind you know of." Silence fell again. Zoe, who hadn't spoken in an hour, suddenly whispered, "He's hunting something." Everyone looked at her, even Keller. She flinched. "I'm setting up my tent," Jesse announced, voice sharp. "Donnie, help Zoe." Keller didn't move, just watched. "I don't suppose you're looking to share a fire?" Marcus asked, half joking. "I don't sleep near fires," Keller said. Then he turned back into the trees without another word. They watched him go, letting out a sigh of relief. Luca leaned in toward Jesse. "Who walks through this part of the forest armed? Alone? At night?" "Someone who knows more than he's telling," Jesse muttered. They sat for a long while, barely speaking. The fire was dying, and eyes began to get heavy. They zipped up their tents one by one, nerves high. Zoe curled up tight in hers, whispering to herself. Jessie stayed awake longer than the others, hand on her knife, eyes fixed on the forest. Somewhere out there, Keller sat alone in the dark. Or maybe he wasn't alone. The forest breathed at night. Jessie could hear it, the soft wind slipping between branches, the rustle of unseen animals, the creak of trees shifting under their own weight. But beneath all that, there was something else. A presence. A pressure. She couldn't sleep. In the tent beside hers, Danny murmured restlessly in her sleep. Luca's snores were soft, rhythmic. Zoe hadn't made a sound for over an hour. Marcus was still awake too. Jessie heard the quiet zip of his tent and the crunch of leaves under his boots. She didn't say anything, just let him go. Probably just needed to piss. But Marcus didn't come back right away. The forest was darker than it had any right to be. Even with a half moon overhead, the canopy was too thick. Marcus didn't go far, just out of sight of the tents. He did his business, zipped up, and turned back, then stopped. There was someone moving beyond the tree line. At first he thought it was Jessie, but the silhouette was too big. Broader shoulders, slower movements. He took a few steps forward, positioning himself behind a bush. Keller, the stranger, was maybe 20 meters off, standing near a thicket of trees, doing something on the ground. Kneeling, digging maybe, or burying. Marcus crouched instinctively, ducking low behind a fallen log. His pulse quickened. Keller stood again, tall and deliberate, and looked around, almost like he sensed someone watching. He adjusted something on his back, not the rifle, something smaller, strapped to his hip. Marcus couldn't see what it was. A blade maybe, or a tool. Then Keller walked away, not toward camp, deeper into the woods, quiet as mist. Marcus stayed low for a while, heart thudding in his ears. He returned to camp silently and slipped back into his tent. He didn't tell anyone. Not yet. The sun rose, blood red through the trees. Mist coiled low around the tents like something alive. The fire was dead. The air was still. Jessie was the first to unzip her tent. She stepped out, stretching and scanning instinctively. Something felt off. Danny was already up, filming the woods with bleary eyes and a forced smile. Luca was pouring water into a metal pot, trying to start a new fire. Jessie glanced toward the last tent. "Zoe!" she called out. No answer. She stepped over and knocked on the canvas. "Zoe?" She pulled the flap open. The tent was empty. Sleeping bag unzipped, pack still inside, boots gone. But there was no sign of struggle, no blood, no trail, just gone. "Zoe," Jessie called, louder now, scanning the clearing. Nothing, no sign of her at all. The others gathered fast. Marcus looked pale. Danny already had her camera down. Jessie turned to him sharply. "You were up last night." Marcus hesitated. "Yeah, I saw something." Jessie stared at him. "Keller," he said. "He was out there, way past the firelight, doing something with the ground. Digging, maybe. I don't know. Then he just walked off." Jessie stared at Marcus like she hadn't heard him right. "He was digging?" she said. "Where?" "About 100 meters out." "Looked like he was burying something," Marcus said, voice low. "I didn't tell you last night because I didn't know what I saw." Danny stepped back from the others, arms crossed tightly. "You think he hurt Zoe?" Jessie turned to Luca. "You said people disappear in this forest all the time. What if he makes them disappear?" "I don't know," Luca said, shaken. "But I don't think we can wait here." Jessie's jaw clenched. "We find where he was digging. If there's nothing there, fine. But if there is..." Marcus swallowed. "We're wasting time." Jessie turned to him sharply. "She's one of us. We don't leave people behind." They moved fast, following Marcus's memory toward the spot he saw Keller. The air grew heavier as they moved, like the trees were closing in around them. Then, they found it. A patch of disturbed earth, shallow, fresh, moss peeled back like skin on top. Jessie knelt and dug into the cold dirt with her hands. They held their breath as she pulled something from the mud. It wasn't a body, not Zoe's anyway. It was a bundle of bones tied together with twine and feathers, smeared with some kind of red clay, primitive, ritualistic. "What the hell is this?" Danny asked, backing away. Luca shook his head. "It's not a grave. It's a ward, a protection charm." Jessie stood slowly, eyes scanning the woods. "He wasn't burying something," she said. "He was trying to keep something out." They all looked at each other, and then they heard it. A footstep. Not close, but not far either. It got louder, then stopped. They all looked towards the noise. Nothing. They searched around the spot, but found nothing. Keller was gone. They searched for another hour, calling his name, following every faint trail. Nothing. No tracks. No sign of where he went. It was as if the forest had swallowed him whole. "We should go back," Danny said finally. "Get out of here and tell the authorities. Let them deal with this." Jessie didn't argue. They turned back toward where they'd come, trying to retrace the path through trees that all looked the same, but the trail was gone. They set off in the direction Jessie had chosen, not bothering to even check the compass. There had to be something recognizable, but everything just looked the same, and it was getting darker. They didn't notice at first, just a rustle behind them, a shadow in their periphery. Danny kept looking over her shoulder. Then Luca stopped mid-step, eyes locked on something through the trees. "Did you see that?" he asked. Jessie turned. "What?" He pointed into the shadows. "A man. Watching us." just standing there. Marcus scanned the trees. I don't see anyone. He was right there, Luca insisted. Barefoot. Pale. Danny cursed under her breath and flicked her flashlight on. No, no, no. This is wrong. It's daylight. Things like this don't happen in daylight. But it wasn't bright. Not anymore. A mist was rising through the trees, thick, white, and clinging to their clothes. The forest grew quiet again. No wind, no birds, just the sound of their own breathing and something else. Footsteps, multiple feet, crunching the leaves, following, always just behind. They began to walk faster, then jog. Luca dared a glance back. There were shadows amongst the bushes. Keep your eyes forward, Jesse ordered. Don't run unless I tell you to. Marcus turned, camera raised, scanning behind them. I swear to God there's someone there. A shape moved between trees. Another shape to the right, then another, more than 3, maybe 5, all standing still, watching, then a scream. Danny spun, screaming too. Run, Jesse yelled. Branches slapped their faces as they sprinted through the woods, lungs burning, hearts pounding. Behind them, whispering broke out, rustling, low guttural sounds that might have been language once, twisted by generations underground. They didn't look back. They didn't need to. The woods were full of them now. The Waldmenschen, the feral men of the Black Forest, silent hunters, starving, bloodthirsty. Danny stumbled, fell, and Jesse dragged her back up by the jacket. Don't stop! Don't ever stop! Then, up ahead, the faint sound. A gunshot, one of them, loud, distant, like thunder cutting through fog. They ran toward it. Jesse's boots slid on the wet moss as she helped Danny over a rotted log. Their hands were shaking from the cold and adrenaline. Neither had spoken for a while. Marcus, a few feet ahead, turned and whispered, I saw it again. Jessie raised her knife. What? He scanned the trees. One of them was right there, on all fours this time, watching from the ridge. Luca whispered, Why aren't they attacking us? They're waiting, Jessie muttered. They're hurting us somewhere. The trees suddenly opened into a wide clearing ringed with tall, thin trunks like spears stabbing into the sky. The mist was thick here, low, curling like smoke around their ankles. In the center of the clearing, something flickered. A fire, old and low, but still burning. It had been lit recently. They stepped into the open cautiously, and that's when they saw it. A totem, the largest they'd seen, 7 feet high, twisted branches bound with sinew and black feathers. It leaned at a crooked angle, and at its base, a body, not Zoe, not Keller, someone else, or what was left of someone. Bound, kneeling, face buried in the dirt, skin painted in red clay and ash. No blood, no wounds, just emptied, like the soul had been taken out. Danny gagged, stumbling back. Marcus raised his camera, started to record, but Jessie slapped it down. No footage, she hissed. Not anymore. They circled the totem like it might reach out and grab them. That's when Marcus stopped cold. Guys, he said, voice hollow. Look at the tree line. They turned. Shadows, dozens of them, not moving, not making a sound, just standing. Watching. Men, or once men now, something wilder, thin, slouched, faces too long, eyes like coal, covered in dirt and old cloth, barefoot, expressionless. Not one stepped forward. Danny backed toward Jessie, whispering, They're waiting for something. Then a whistle, high and short. One of the shadows moved. Another echoed the whistle. Then a third. It passed around the clearing like a signal, a command. The fire sputtered, the wind died, and then a voice, raspy, Childlike. Wrong. Leave the gift. Or join it. The fire cracked low, casting the totem's face into twitching shadow. Jessie's grip on her knife tightened until her knuckles ached. Danny stood beside her, wide-eyed, whispering prayers she didn't know she remembered. Marcus backed slowly away from the body, the corpse at the totem's base looming behind him like a warning written in flesh. Leave the gift, or join it. The voice hadn't come from one of them, it had come from all around. From the tree line, the shadows began to move, slowly, deliberately, forward. The four of them back together, shoulder to shoulder, eyes flicking between the trees. The air was dense with smoke, damp, and fear. Danny's voice was barely audible. What do we do? Jessie scanned the clearing. We run. They'll follow. We don't have another choice. Marcus was shaking. We're going to die out here. Then, bang. The gunshot tore through the silence like thunder in a church. It came from the trees, far left. The sound echoed, distant but close enough to shake the clearing. The feral figures froze, heads snapping toward the sound like startled deer. Another shot, then a scream, not from the group, but from one of the shadows, high-pitched and human, but wrong, feral, almost canine. Jessie didn't wait. Now, she shouted. They bolted from the clearing, Danny nearly tripping over the base of the totem, Marcus hesitating to grab his camera. Branches whipped at their faces. Something ran parallel to them, in the trees. Something fast. The forest changed again, sloping steeply down. The ground became unstable, damp, soft. Roots tripped them. Mist swallowed the trees. Then Luca shouted, "Stop!" They skidded to a halt. A ravine. Deep, 30 feet across. Slick rock walls. A shallow creek at the bottom, running like silver through the darkness. There was no bridge. No way across. No easy way down. They turned. The forest behind them was alive with movement. Figures emerging through the bushes, all along the tree line. Jessie raised her knife. Danny picked up a branch. Marcus whispered, "This is it." Jessie was about to respond when Keller stepped out from the fog. He looked like a ghost, covered in mud and blood. His coat was torn, his hat was gone, but he still held that same bolt-action rifle like it was part of his arm. His eyes locked onto Jessie. "Down," he growled. "What?" she gasped. He stepped forward, raised the rifle, and fired over their heads. One of the shadows dropped mid-stride, twitching and still. Keller didn't break pace. Down the ravine. Now, slide or jump. You've got 2 seconds. Another shape lunged from the trees. Bang. Keller reloaded without looking. Jessie didn't argue. She grabbed Danny and shoved her toward the edge. "Go!" Danny slid, screaming all the way down, crashing through roots and dirt. Marcus followed, stumbling, tumbling over the ledge like a rag doll. Jessie went last, barely dodging the grasp of something pale and skeletal reaching from the trees. The fall knocked the air out of her. When she opened her eyes, Keller was standing at the top of the ravine, firing into the woods with calm, brutal precision. Then he was gone in an instant. They weren't waiting to see what happened. They just picked themselves up and headed the other way. The gunfire faded into the distance as they pushed themselves on as fast as they could muster. The woods had changed. It wasn't just the light, darker now, even in the afternoon. The trees felt closer. The path they tried to follow looped back on itself, impossibly. Something was watching them. More than one thing. Jessie could feel it in her gut. Zoe was gone. Keller had vanished. And now they were down to 4. Jessie, Marcus, Danny, and Luca. All of them running on adrenaline and raw fear. It happened so fast. A sound in the trees, a whistle, soft and high-pitched, like a bird's call warped by something with the shape of lungs, but not the right parts. A fleeting shadow in the distant trees, then movement in the bushes. It was too fast, too quiet. A sudden rustling on the left. Luca spun toward it and was dragged screaming into the underbrush, his flashlight spinning wildly before snapping off against a tree. "Luca!" Danny shouted, rushing toward the sound, but Jessie grabbed her. "No, you run or you die." They ran. Marcus fell behind, breathing ragged, his camera still hanging loosely from his neck. Then he tripped. He got up in a hurry, stumbling on, but he didn't make it far. Something stepped out from behind a tree, long arms, head tilted, skin pale and stretched thin like old parchment. Its eyes caught the light, but there was no soul behind them, just a lust for blood. Jessie and Danny stumbled into a clearing, panting, eyes wide. Jessie had a knife. Danny had nothing but a flashlight and a GoPro that hadn't been turned on since morning. "What the hell are they? And where is Marcus?" Danny whispered, crying now, not even trying to hide it. Jessie looked around. They're not animals, not people. Something in between. Something that never left this forest. And I think they've got him. From the shadows, shapes began to arise. Not one or two, but dozens. They held their breaths tight as the figures moved forward and the feral ones stepped out. There were 20, maybe 30. It was hard to tell where they ended and the trees began. They didn't run. They walked. Deliberately, heads tilted, twitching unnaturally, like they were learning to be human again, but had forgotten the basics. One opened its mouth and this low, hoarse moan came out. Danny backed up, shaking like a leaf. Jessie. Another whistle. This one was closer. Mimicked. Wrong. Jessie grabbed her hand. "Go!" she shouted. They ran and the creatures followed. They were nearly overtaken. One lunged, slashing at Danny's backpack and tearing it clean off her shoulder. She screamed, stumbled, and Jessie dragged her forward. Then, a gunshot. Loud, close, echoing, through the trees like thunder. One of the creatures dropped on the path, dead still. Keller stepped from the trees, coat torn, rifle raised, expression like carved stone. He didn't speak, just moved with terrifying efficiency. Bang, bang, click, reload, bang, bang. He didn't miss a shot, dropping one with every round. The feral people scattered into the trees, melting into shadow, their pursuit broken for now. Jessie and Danny collapsed near a tree, gasping, coughing, crying. Keller stood over the last creature, still twitching and without ceremony. Drew a knife and finished it with a swift strike. Then silence, only the wind. Jessie finally managed, "What the fuck are they?" Keller looked at her. "Waldman shed," he said. "They've been here longer than we have." Danny coughed. "You're one of them." "No," he said, "but I know how to survive them." He looked toward the woods. "Come on, we've got to move. They'll be back by nightfall." They hiked in silence until dawn. Danny limped most of the way, and Jessie kept her knife out the whole time. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, the sun was setting over Gutak. A search party found them not long after, delirious and exhausted. Danny was crying again. Jessie didn't speak. Keller was gone. He'd vanished when they arrived at town. No one else had seen him. When asked what happened, Jessie just said, "We weren't the only ones out there." She never gave interviews. Danny deleted the footage. Marcus's camera was never recovered. Neither was his or anyone else's body. As for Keller, he's still out there, somewhere in the trees, hunting, watching, waiting, because the forest never forgets, and neither will they. Thank you all for listening. I do hope you were entertained. Please drop a like and subscribe for more great stories to come. Until next time, sleep tight.